Everybody, happy Thursday. We are on the countdown and going to get started in T minus 2 minutes.
Yes.
I'm excited for this. Let me
So am I.
check and make sure we are live.
And while you do that, I am going to share this to
Yep, I am going to share this
different
to my
channels.
people. This is going to be a good one.
There we are.
All right. Good
Every once in a
evening.
while, my screen decides it wants to blank out. I have too much because I have too many things open.
Yeah, whenever I start the live stream or whenever I get ready to come on here on Thursdays, I'll always make sure I restart my computer. Hey Keith, good evening. Thank you for joining. And I'm just gonna make sure this is shared out on my page. So we are good to go. So tonight we are streaming on Facebook and YouTube. So welcome YouTube world, welcome Facebook. Dr. Kim has a really big community, so I'm excited that you all are joining in.
I'm excited too. I'm sharing this right now in a couple of communities.
Okay, cool. And we got fancy little name tags and everything this evening.
Right.
All right. So, happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to Dive into AI with Meredith. I am Meredith Hurston, and I am here with Dr. Kimberly West. Dr. Kim, thank you
Good
for
afternoon.
joining
Good
me.
evening. Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We talked about this maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I invited you on and asked if you would join me because you have a growing community where you have a group of entrepreneurs where you talk about AI and all the AI tools. And I know it's been a few weeks ago now, but you did a series on LinkedIn where you were discussing AI,
Mhm.
and so you had some
Absolutely.
really good content to share on there, and I thought that people, other business owners and entrepreneurs, would be interested in hearing what you have to say. And a lot of people still have concerns about
Mhm.
AI and data privacy, terms of use. They have legal questions. Um, they're curious about AI and they aren't sure if they should be using it in their business, or they may have started using it but still just they I think people feel a little bit uncertain. So that's why I
Mhm.
wanted to have you here. So I'm so
Well,
glad
thank
that you accepted the invite.
you. I'm glad that you extended the invitation.
So I met Dr. Kim about 1 year ago. So we're coming up on
Mhm.
Exodus Summit again this year. It starts tomorrow, actually. And I met Dr. Kim at Exodus Summit last year. And Exodus Summit is a community for Black women that are interested in either traveling abroad or taking a sabbatical or moving abroad. And so Dr. Kim is an expat. She's known as the luxury expat. And she is a multi passionate serial entrepreneur. And we got connected because you were speaking about a travel business, and I was in your program. And while this was last fall, and so while we were in that program, we got distracted by the launch of ChatGPT.
Completely distracted.
It got
ChatGPT took on a life of its own.
right. So it was it like November 30th of last year when they launched or when they
Mhm.
made ChatGPT publicly available?
It was.
And I just kind of went down the rabbit hole and have not come back out.
Yeah, and it's a deep rabbit hole. I think we've all been going down the rabbit hole. Some more technical, some more business, some more strategy, and some were just saying, "Oh, I wonder if I can get ChatGPT to write a book for me." So we're all going down the rabbit hole. But it's time to put some guardrails around this rabbit hole and to start using chat gpt and generative ai in general, strategically, as opposed to just, just using it just because it's there.
Yes, I agree because there are, and I think you and I both have the entrepreneurial mindset. There is money to be
Mhm.
made. So we need to be strategic about how we are using these tools. Um, and
Yeah,
that being said, oh, go ahead.
there's money to be made. There are lives to be saved. There chat well, artificial intelligence isn't just chat gpt, and I
Right.
think that's one of the things we're going to start talking about more and more, is that it doesn't, it doesn't end at chat gpt or midjourney or, claude or bard and all this other stuff. Artificial intelligence is a monster. It is a behemoth of a technology that, as I was saying, can save lives, can help with famine, can help with analysis. Just the ramifications and the implications of chat of artificial intelligence, sorry, are much far further reaching than we are really taking a look at in our little bubble.
Yes, I agree. And so we are going to be discussing three broad topics this evening. And if you guys have questions as it pertains to any of these topics, please feel free to drop them in the chat at any time, and we will do our best to address them within the scope of our knowledge. That being said, I do want to put out a disclaimer, and I had created one and I don't know where it went. This is for information and educational purposes. This is not legal advice. Neither one of us are lawyers or attorneys. So,
No, I will direct you to an attorney who specializes in AI, and I'll mention him when we get to that portion of the program. But no, neither one of us are attorneys. We don't even play them on TV or the internet. This is information that has been found through research and through anecdotal and conversations with other attorneys.
absolutely. So, with that being said, we are broadly going to be talking about data privacy, terms of use and terms of service with some of the tools that we are using with generative AI, and touching on some legal concerns. So,
Mhm.
when I got started, so this is week 7 for me in a 12-week series I'm doing called Dive into AI. Yay! I have been going live every Thursday night at 7 p.m. for the last 7 weeks. And when I got the week before, the same week that I started, I posed the question on Facebook, what questions or concerns do you have about artificial intelligence? And I got some good questions back from that post. So I'm going to be kind of intermixing those in with some of my own questions that I wanted to ask Dr. Kim or just chat with Dr. Kim about tonight. But we're going to get started with talking about data privacy. So,
Mm.
the first question I think is what a lot of people would like to know. How is AI trained?
AI is trained on data. Now, that's the short answer. So, each company, each manufacturer, if you will, each software developer that has created an AI or a chat or a generative AI, and that's what we call things like ChatGPT, each one, they have decided what set of data they wanted to gather. So, it could be all of the books from all of the Shakespearean books, it could be all of the, the American journals of medicine. They decide what data they want to train their AI on, and they amass it, and that's what they train it on. So ChatGPT is not trained on the same set of data that Bard is trained on, is not trained on the same set of data that Claude is trained on. So each company has a different set of data, which is why when you take the same question or the same query and you put it into ChatGPT or Bard or Claude, you're going to get three very different answers
Right.
because they have different data sets. So it's different buckets of information, is what it comes down to.
And then the image generators like your Midjourney, your Dali, which I think is Dali
Mhm.
3 now, and Stable
Yeah.
Diffusion, those are all trained on, different sets of images. And depending on the company, a lot of these companies will not release their training set to like
No,
the
it's
data
proprietary.
training set, they won't share that with you because it's
Yeah.
proprietary for them. I think Meta did come out their llama data
Hmm.
set. Didn't they disclose like what that training data is or something like
They
that?
did. Yeah, they did disclose llama. But something interesting about the image data sets, and what we talk about in AI, we talk about the bias in AI sometimes. And the data sets are gathered and created by the engineers. And more often than not, the engineers that are choosing the data, the people who are choosing the data, are not people of color. So there's this bias that existed initially, and it still does, initially existed within artificial intelligence, particularly with images, because, if you you type in, describe the perfect woman or create a picture of the perfect woman, 9 times out of 10, actually 9.9 times out of 10, it was always a blonde hair, blue eyed woman who was wayfish looking and, had a particular aesthetic. Well, guess what? That's not everyone's version of a perfect woman. So when we talk about, these sets of data, every set of data, all AI carries with it the bias of the people that created it and the engineers that worked on it.
Very true. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons, that's a broader reason why I'm doing this series. I want
Hmm.
people to be exposed to artificial intelligence and not be
Yeah.
afraid of it. And I really want people to be inspired and go be a maker. Go be a
Yes, be a maker.
producer. Be a producer of, and when I what I mean by being a maker is be a producer as opposed to being a consumer, because we consume a lot of the tools, but I want people to be inspired by this technology and realize that it's not unattainable. You can build tools. So let's be some producers and kind of try to counteract some of the bias that we have. Let's make a black art generator.
Yes. And Tierra says, yes, it's hard getting ethnic features in Midjourney. I'm going to tell you, I did a blend of myself in Midjourney when I uploaded a picture and I was doing some manipulation of myself in Midjourney. And I kid you not, it turned me into a sandy blonde haired white woman.
Did it really?
And as you can see, I am not a sandy blonde haired white woman. So that was when Midjourney was really first taking off. I've done the same experiment a few times over the past few months, and it's getting better. Having locks, most of the generators have a difficult time generating locks or braids, or even sometimes getting our skin tone correct. So, yeah, Tiara says, I believe it. It's getting better. And what Meredith was just saying is absolutely apropos. We have to be makers. In order for artificial intelligence to properly represent who we are, we have to get in it. And I'm so glad that Meredith is doing this series and she's as active as she is. In a little while, we'll talk about an event that's coming up next week that I'll be going to represent us, to make sure that our voices are being heard. But yeah, it's part of making sure that AI represents who we are as well.
And let's circle back on going places to
Mhm.
represent us. So one of the things that I'm thankful to Dr. Kim for, I told you guys that we got acquainted last fall, and while I was in her program, we went down the rabbit hole of AI, and she ended up telling me about the AI Bot Summit, which took place, was that like last March or April?
The first one, yeah, it was actually the second one was last April, and yeah, I attended, and there's a group of Black women. We kind of all stick together. There's a group of Black women, and we said, you know what, we're not about to let this AI bot summit happen, and we're not going to be there. So we all got it. We all went, and I came back and I was telling Meredith and some other people about it. And Meredith came to the next one, which was just a few weeks ago.
I did. It was in Orlando, and I told some people. So a couple of my friends came, and they were, so thankful. We were just so thankful and appreciative to be in the room and take up space and contribute and learn, because there is
Hmm.
so much to learn in this space. It is still like in its infancy. It's still like a week old. It's
Yeah,
not literally, but figuratively, it's like still a week old. It's in
it's still
such its
wet behind the
infancy.
ears.
Yeah, and it's so much, runway for this to go in terms of like developing tools, building software, and understanding, how these models are created, because that's the basis of all of these AI tools are
Hmm.
models, and these models are built on data. And data can be pictures, it can be text, it could be a lot of stuff. So when you kind of understand the inner workings of that, you can be a producer and contributor as opposed
That's
to
it.
just a consumer. So again, super thankful that I was able to go to AI Bot Summit, and I look forward to staying engaged in that community and being a
Hmm.
producer myself, being a maker and a producer myself in this space.
And they saw us. We were definitely front and center.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of stuck out. We stood out like a fly in buttermilk, but we were there.
Literally. But
We
that's
were
okay.
right.
That
That's
is
okay. We were there holding it down. But so anyway, the next question I have, um, in terms of like our inputs and stuff like that. So when we
okay.
ask questions of ChatGPT or when we put prompts, thank you, Tierra. I see you. Hey, Tanisha, how you doing? Um, when we use our inputs like prompts, say like a mid-journey prompt or a question or prompt that we ask of ChatGPT, how do those tools take our inputs and like what do they do with that information? Do they retrain their models on it? Do they keep it? Are they discarding it? Like how is that being used? And is it being used to retrain their models and make their programs better?
So the official answer for most companies is that no, we don't use it to retrain our AI. We don't use it to retrain our data models. I don't believe it.
Neither do I.
Not at all. And I'll say that I'll preface this by saying that we meant because I was teaching a travel class, but I've been a Microsoft engineer and a hardcore techie for over 30 years. I've dealt with data for over 30 years. And you start to recognize patterns. So I've noticed that there are some phrases that are starting to come out about in Chat GPT in particular that you're starting to see on everybody's copy, which is like a dead giveaway that it's Chat GPT.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. I know what it is. I know what it is.
But
Is it the word unleash?
that's one of them. That is definitely one of them. If you see the word unleashed, it's almost a given that it is a Chat GPT creation.
Hilarious.
Um, I could go down the rabbit hole on that one, but to answer the question, um, they use it. Oh, we're getting some good questions. They use the data that you are inputting. They say in order to streamline, in order to give you better answers. Now, let's walk through this logically now. In order to give you better answers, which means they have to analyze it and look at what you're asking versus the results that it gave you. So isn't that kind of analyzing and retraining?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I
It
would
all
say
comes
so.
down to semantics is
Yes.
is is what I'm saying. It comes down to semantics. Do they take all of your data and just literally put it into a data set and then retrain their data model on it? No, they don't do that. But they do pay attention to what you're asking. They do pay attention to the results that they are giving you as a result of your questions, as a result of your prompts, and they are fine tuning the current models that they have. So they're not putting your information in, but they are fine tuning the current models that they have.
And so what they say is they're doing this under the guise of making sure that what they're giving is accurate and I guess
Hmm.
like it doesn't, violate their terms of service or it's not any graphic or questionable content. So they're reviewing it.
Yes, they're reviewing it.
But I think a review, I'm not an attorney, but I kind of wonder. I do agree with you if whether or not they are using this data to retrain, which I think is a strong possibility. I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised if we find this out later that they are
fine.
using.
There's a thin line between fine tuning and retraining.
So, in my opinion, because how I first got introduced to artificial intelligence was through natural language processing. And
Hmm.
so I use, dang it, what is it called? Shoot, I'm drawing a blank on it. It's a really huge language model that's out on Hugging Faces. It was like one of the first, BERT.
Yeah.
So I took my data set and fine tuned BERT. So fine
Oh.
tuning is a form of
Hmm.
training.
It's a very thin line.
Yes,
Thin
fine tuning
line.
is a form of training. So
Hmm.
it's like you improve the model for your use case. That's the definition of fine tuning. So in order to use BERT, I had to fine tune it to my data set so that it could understand my data set and things that I feed it going forward in order to do accurate predictions. It needed
Hmm.
to be fine tuned to my data set. So that is a form of training. It's not a full training,
No,
like
it's
it
not
didn't,
training.
scrape the internet and,
Nope.
pull a whole, dictionary of data, but it learned from my data set. So yeah, that
Hmm.
is a training in my opinion.
It
So
learned from its mistakes, or it learned from its your fine tuning. So
so
yeah.
we have an interesting question from Baltimore WB.
I see
Uh
that. Are
let's
there concerns about AI potentially displacing jobs in the field of graphic design? That's a question that I hear and I see very often. Between that one and copywriters also ask the exact same question. And my answer is no. While generative AI like Midjourney, like Leonardo, like DALI 3, and the rest of them, while they can create works of art, computer generated art, and we'll get into this in just a moment, they can't be copyrighted.
right.
You cannot copyright an image that has been created by generative AI. So that's one thing, that's one safeguard that you have. The other thing is that until some of the models get a little bit better, it's very difficult to make subtle changes in a work of art that is generated by AI. So, you may want to move something just a tiny, just a centimeter over, or you may want to change a shade, change a color just a shade. And I'm just using those as examples. There are certain skills that actual professional graphic designers have that can't be duplicated by AI at this time. So, will it get rid of graphic designs? Will it displace the jobs in graphic design? No, because if you want to copyright your design, you need a graphic designer.
Yes. And so I can add my thoughts to this question as well. Thank you for this
Yeah, because you
question.
create some great images, Meredith.
Thank you. Thank you for this question, Baltimore WB. So I create art in Midjourney and Stable Diffusion as well as Playground, but I do what's called upscaling my art. So that's how you can make your designs unique to you because you can take something that's AI generated and AI does is getting is improving like with each version, each iteration it gets better and better. But there are still challenges with a lot of your AI generated art. It may not be as crisp as you want it. It could have artifact in it. It could have extra fingers. Like they've done
I was
things
going
to
to say
improve
that.
it, but like there might not be clarity in the whites of the eyes. Like the teeth could be jacked up. It could be stuff, wrong with the fingers and all sorts of things. So you would want to take those into a tool like Photoshop or Procreate and do what's called upscale it or edit it. Like you would want to airbrush or improve or change the color or something like
Mhm.
that in those images. And in that way, that's not going to you're not going to replace a graphic designer because the average person doesn't really know how to do that. That's a skill set that you have to learn over time. So I do think that there is still a lot of runway for graphic designers, and I don't believe that the AI art is going to totally displace graphic designers. I do think it would be wise to consider AI as a part of your workflow with graphic designers because I think that it can, spark your creativity and enhance the work that you're already good at.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And the
those are
same
my
goes for
thoughts.
copywriters. You can generate all the copy you want, using, Chat GPT and all of its cousins, but it's never going to be able to take the place of a good copywriter. It's never going to have that personality. It's not ever going to have that professional skill. And also, it's difficult to copyright information that has been solely generated through generative AI. So that's another legal issue that we will talk about in just a moment.
Yes, but thank you for the question. Great question. So my next question is, does using an API like the OpenAI API, which I think a lot of people may be familiar with, and those that
Hmm.
are not familiar, so I'll give a little bit of background really quick. ChatGPT, which is found at chat.openai.com, is like the public facing free tool that anybody can register for an account and start using right away today. So that would be what is it, GPT version 3.5, I think that you have access to
Hmm.
as a free user. If you upgrade to their paid version,
Program.
is it Pro or ChatGPT
Yes,
Plus?
pro. You get
ChatGPT,
four.
yeah, you get
Plus is
access.
four.
You get access to GPT-4, which is a little bit faster. I find it to be a little bit more robust. But in addition to that, there are other sides of OpenAI that exist that some people may not be aware of. But one of them is the API side, or like the playground side, where you can go in
Hmm.
and get an API key. And what the API key does is allows you to interface with other tools. So there's something called like wraparound services, and I don't want to go down the whole tech rabbit hole, but
I was about to say you're going down a rabbit hole for
I
real, for
don't
real.
I don't want to go down the tech rabbit hole, but that's commonly what people use API keys for. But you can go into the back end of OpenAI, which is found at playground.openai.com, and that's a little bit more I guess reserved. And so that's the question
Mhm.
I have for you. Like when you use the API, does that keep conversations private? Does that keep your data private?
You have to assume that anything that you put on the internet, and this goes way way back, anything that you put on the internet, it's not private. It couldn't possibly be private. It is being stored somewhere, sometimes in multiple places, where someone else can get to it. That's just the intrinsic nature of the internet in general. So, to the extent that ChatGPT or OpenAI, I'm sorry, can keep the data private and secure, have you seen any encryption around OpenAI's offerings? So, to that end, it's only as secure as the platform will allow it to be.
Right.
So let's break this down to something very simple. T-Mobile just had another massive breach of confidential information. They claim that their systems are secure. How many other companies have had massive breaches of personal information?
Seems
So
like it
any
happens every week.
Yeah, just about. So anything, and this is all around, whether it's AI or anything else, anything that you put on the internet, you have to assume that someone else with the right skills can get to it. Even banking information. We're all kind of, we're all indoctrinated into online banking. How many banks have been hacked?
A lot. Employers get hacked.
Hmm.
So yeah, the rule is that you would not want to put proprietary information um in.
And there's a way to work with proprietary information. One of the things that we teach is that if you have a proprietary phrase or you have proprietary material, give it a code word and use that code word when you're generating information in chat gpt or bard or claude, or anything like that, using that code word. And then, if you drop it into Microsoft Word and you're working with it on your own machine, then you can always do a search and replace, take that code word out, and then put the actual information in. That way your proprietary information never actually makes it onto the internet, never makes it into one of the generative AI tools. And I kind of do that now because I have some things I'm working on that are proprietary, and You never know if somebody's going to hack into it or what's going to happen. These companies haven't been around all that long, so I'm not 100% trusting of their security measures. So I use code words in my generation of content, as well, and graphics as well.
So if that was a gem for you guys, drop the little gem emoji in the chat because I think that was a pro tip. Thank you, Dr. Kim.
You're welcome. Yes,
And
code
hi,
word.
Leanna. Good evening. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the broadcast. And hello, Yvette. That's my cousin. Hey, cuz. How you doing? I'm glad you're here. So, tonight I'll just kind of reset because we're about halfway through the broadcast. So tonight I'm talking to Dr. Kimberly West. She is an AI consultant, and I consider her to be very knowledgeable in this space. And again, we are not attorneys. This is for information and educational purposes only. But we are talking about data privacy, terms of service with the various AI tools that are really popular right now, as well as answering some of the questions about legal concerns that people have with using generative AI tools. So I'm glad that you guys are here. So I see a gem in the chat for that
Oh,
gem you
thank you.
just dropped, because that
We appreciate that.
yeah, that's definitely helpful. So let's move into talking about terms of use and terms of service. So this is
Oh,
something this is something I struggle with. So getting prepared for this broadcast, I there's a newer tool out that I've known about probably for a month, but people have started recently is gaining popularity and they had to kind of pull the gate closed on it. Is Ideogram AI.
yes. Oh,
So
yes.
I think they have implemented a wait list now. So
Yeah.
I think it started getting really popular. So I think they've had to put some parameters around how many accounts they're opening a day or something like that. I've had my account probably for like 3 or 4 weeks. Um, but when you log in now, they make you check the box again to say that they've updated their terms of service. So that joint is like this long.
Yep.
It's like yay long. And I'm
Yep.
like, my eyes glaze over. I read well and I have strong comprehension, but I don't really do legalese. So I'm like, what does this mean? Like how did it change? What does it mean for the images that I create? Like, do they
Uh-huh.
belong to me? Do they belong to Ideogram or the parent company of Ideogram? So what should we be concerned about with terms of use in terms of service with these AI tools?
You should be current concerned. The first thing is you really should be reading them. And I know, for decades we've just chugged along and we haven't been reading the terms of service. We haven't been reading the privacy policies of a lot of the applications that we're using. And as a result, we're giving away so much information. I have to go and take a look at Ideogram, their TOS again. But we've had, even what was it, Threads? Who put out Threads? Instagram Threads
Yep.
was a perfect example. Instagram Threads came out and everybody started signing up for it, but nobody was reading the terms and conditions
And you did
or
a
the
live
terms.
about that. You did an
I did.
education.
I did. I did a live, and I didn't just talk about it. I actually took my phone and I videoed my phone and took people through what the TOS was. And part of the TOS says that they had the right to access your social security number, your credit report, and your health information. All three of those are protected areas of information. But if you signed up for Threads, you gave them the right. You gave Instagram, which is basically Meta. Now, think about this. You gave Instagram, which is Meta, the right to access that information.
And why does Facebook need my social security number?
Why does Meta need any of that information?
And I went over there like a clown and and set up an account before I knew this.
So I strongly suggest that everyone, when you have Oh, Tierra's just dropping some emojis. When you have a new application, heck, well, forget new applications, even the applications that you have now, go back and read the privacy policy, number one, because that will tell you what they can and cannot do with your information. How private is your information on that particular platform? One of the, what is it? One of the headshot makers. It was it Remy.
Yes.
Everybody was, oh my goodness, everybody was
Remini.
using it. Remni. And every time I saw someone with a headshot that came from that place, I would cringe because their privacy policy was wide open, wide open. It was about as wide open as a football field. You have no privacy on there. And they also had reserved the, I think they were reserving the right to use your images and train their AI on your images.
And I think I got hip after Lenza. Like I learned my
Hmm.
lesson with Lenza. What was
Yeah,
that, last
Lenza was a
December?
big one.
I did do some images on Lenza, and then the whole situation came out. I think that it was Russian owned or something like that, and that they did not have a good privacy policy. So I learned from that about AI generators, but I did not think exactly, Keith, exactly.
Yeah, it was. You're
I
right.
didn't think that about I didn't give any thought to threads. Like, I guess
Hmm.
because I've had Facebook for so long, I'm like, oh, this is a new, Instagram app. We've
Mm-mm.
been
They had a
hoodwinked and led
completely
astray.
different TOS. Yep. Oh, you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led
And
astray.
led astray.
Completely different TOS. And I think the biggest one that people were in uproar about was Zoom. Now, when
Yes.
Zoom changed their terms of service and they put that out there that they now owned your content, basically had access to your content, could use it and repurpose it any way that they saw fit, I thought the world collectively lost their minds.
Oh, yeah.
And
They
I
had to back
remember,
that up. They had to walk that
yeah,
back.
specifically, it was paragraph 10.4. That's how bad it was that I know exactly what paragraph that they put that nonsense in. So they put it out there. They kind of did a delta. They put it out there, and then they had to walk it back.
And
And
I thank you for raising these concerns, because I will say I am guilty of not reading terms of service. I'm like, it's so much information. Like, I
yeah,
know this sounds terrible. I'm like, it can't be that bad. So
and that's what they're counting on. That is
yes,
exactly what they're counting on. I remember, a long, long time ago, I used to work for Microsoft, which is really how I became a hardcore techie. And one of the things that one of part of my responsibility was to read the terms and service and all the contract and all the fine print for Microsoft partners, so I could understand it, so I could explain it to Microsoft partners. So
got
that
you.
got me, and this is years ago. So that got me in the habit of reading all of this material that nobody ever wants to read. But some of the stuff that they put in there, you're just like, why do you need that information, or why do you want to do that with that information?
Right.
So I know it's tedious, but people, please read the terms of service, read the privacy policies of, especially the newer applications that come out, because you also have to be mindful that you're putting your credit card numbers in some of these applications. And part of the scare with Lenza was that, oh, they're going to take all of our personally identifiable information, credit cards, et cetera, et cetera. Well, you don't want that in the wrong hands. And it's so easy to create an AI application now. It's so easy to create an application, period. I could literally create one in the next 15, 20 minutes and have it up for sale and be accepting credit cards. Well, what if I'm a scam artist? What
Right.
if I'm just taking your credit card number and I'm doing all sorts of stuff, other stuff with it? So please be careful. Read the fine print. I know it's really not fun, but that's what you really need to do.
And especially with like the code interpreter and these like, what is it, inside of GitHub, they have
Mhm.
Copilot now. So they have all of these assistive tools to help,
Yes.
the average person be able to code and, like you said, build applications. So yeah, you can
Mhm.
throw something up there and be able to accept credit card information, and you need to make sure that who you're giving your credit card to um
It's
is
legit.
legit. Yeah, it's legit. So one thing I would love to get your opinion on, and we could revisit this if you don't want to share an opinion about it now, but so ChatGPT just brought back Bing chat, or Bing
Hmm.
search. So what I
Hmm.
did with the ideogram, I want to see, I think I can share while we're on. Can I share?
You should be able to.
Um, yep, here it is.
And if you see me look up, I'm looking at another screen because I'm watching us. I'm watching the comments and the questions on the other screen.
Oh, okay, cool. So this is a conversation I had with ChatGPT earlier about the terms of service for ideogram. So I just said, can you explain the terms of service found on this URL at a fifth grade level? And so this
Hmm.
is using the web browser. So it said that it was able to do it. And I asked it could explain more about what happens with the pictures that I upload there. And it says that they use it basically to perform their, quality checks or whatever, but that it belongs to me. So they don't take your images. So I would have to
Hmm.
dive, much deeper into
Much
this,
deeper.
but it might be a good way to kind of get a cursory look at terms of service if you pop the
Yeah,
URL into ChatGPT. This might
that's
be
a
helpful for
perfect way to
somebody.
do it. And in fact, that's one of the before they yanked it a few months ago. What did they yank it in? Like June, May, June?
It's been a minute, so yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
about right.
yeah. Before they yanked it, we were using it to do contract analysis. We would take the contract, we would feed it into Chat GPT, and like you just said, we would say, "Explain this to me as if I'm a child."
Yep, and you can ask it to, you can ask it further questions if you want to.
Hmm.
So this is a way that you can use ChatGPT that would be helpful, and that's using the web browser in Bing. So it's part of ChatGPT Plus. Um, yes, Tier, that is a part of version 4. The
Yep,
web.
that is GPT-4.
Yeah, I can go back and show you really quick how you find it.
Yep, you
So,
just gotta make sure it's enabled.
yep, if you go into new conversation, it'll bring up GPT-4 here, and then it's under here, browse with Bing. So you just have to select it. Like if you're normally on the default or something, you would just have to select browse with Bing, and then you would be able to use web browsing.
Yep.
All right, so next
You want
question.
to talk? I was going to say I've got one. Are we going to talk about law or because I want to make sure that everyone has a resource, a particular resource when it comes to AI law.
Yes, I was getting ready to move into that next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you good? Because we just talked about terms of service, so I was going to move into legal concerns because we talked about I wanted to talk about copyright as it pertains to
Hmm.
generating text as well as generating images. I think a lot of people are wondering, are they able to copyright their works of art? So I will hand that off to you.
Okay, and I'm once again I am going to reiterate the disclaimer. I am not an attorney. I have spoken to attorneys about what it is to be an artificial intelligence or really IP, intellectual property attorney or intellectual property law. So that's where this information comes, and it also comes from a lot of reading. But
Yes.
first, the resource that I want to give you guys is a gentleman by the name of Peter Nieves, and that's Niev as in Victor Es. Peter Nieves is probably one of the best IP lawyers in the country, and he has decided that he's going to focus a lot on artificial intelligence. So he does some free workshops, and if you're on his Facebook or Instagram pages, you get a lot of really good free information. So I want to give that to you guys firsthand, because as we slide down this slope, as we move forward, we're going to need more and more help from the legal community. Now, the United States is basically we're a huge excuse me consumer of artificial intelligence, but we are way behind the rest of the world when it comes to legislation, when it comes to laws, when it comes to governance. And luckily, the United States Copyright Office was the first federal office to step out. And thank you so much, Meredith. The United States Copyright Office was the first office to step out and actually try to put some guardrails, put some governance around artificial intelligence. So, according to the United States Copyright Office, and Meredith, I'll give you the, yeah, that's the Tiara, that's him. Protect Your
Yes.
Idea with Peter Nieves.
Hmm.
I'll give you the link to the actual document from the Copyright Office. They have said that if you are generating work, text work, basically words, and it is 100% written by artificial intelligence, you cannot copyright that.
Correct.
To copyright something, it has to have significant human interaction. Now, then that begs the question, well, what the hell is significant human interaction mean, number one? And number two, can you give me a percentage? Can you give me something quantifiable? Um, Unfortunately, that part did not come out. But the guidelines are there, and it shows obviously that the Copyright Office is thinking about it. But the interesting thing is that if they find that someone has, prior to this, that they have created a work of fiction, nonfiction, documentary, whatever it is, and it was primarily written by generative AI, they reserve the right to come back and yank the copyright.
Yes.
I was like, that's savage. But it's like the IRS. They're gonna send you a couple of notices before that and give you an opportunity to clean it up, to give it more human interaction. And again, they haven't given us a specific percentage. So I take the rule of thumb, I say at the minimum 51%. So if I write something, I take 51% of that and I rewrite it myself as the human. That way I'm saying, okay, it is more than half. So it is significantly human. It's just artificial intelligence inspired or assisted.
Yes.
And there are full-fledged books that are in on Amazon, in Barnes and Noble, floating all over the place, that were written 100% with generative AI. And those people do stand a chance of the Copyright Office saying, hey, we know you didn't write this, we're going to work with you on this copyright. But it also begs one more question: how do they know? That's number one. And number two, do they really have the manpower to go back over works of fiction, works of literature that have been created in the last 3 years, and try to figure out who wrote it with ChatGPT or Jasper or whatever they used and who
Because I was
didn't?
gonna say before ChatGPT, there was Jasper, and yeah. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that Amazon is trying to crack down on AI as well, because
Yeah.
now when you list a new project on KDP,
They
they're
ask you.
requiring you to disclose whether or
Mm-hmm.
not this was created with artificial intelligence. And I have not recently, since they've implemented that, I have not um, added a new project to KDP. So I don't know if it asks like at all, like this was, if AI contributed to it at all, or if it's
Mm-hmm.
majority content from AI. I'm curious to see what that looks like, but I haven't uploaded anything to KDP in the last couple of weeks or a couple of months.
I'm looking. I'm waiting to see what that's going to look like as well, because as you and I both know, before they even put that little blurb in there with the little checkbox, they were shutting people's accounts down. And
Yes.
you and I have a mutual friend whose account got shut down, and she had over 200 books in there.
Did she? I didn't know it was that many.
Yeah, she prolific is not even the word.
Oh, wow. I know she was devastated. Yikes.
Yeah, that's why everything got moved over to
To
Lulu.
Lulu,
So
yes.
yeah,
And I'm
Lulu
on Lulu, so
definitely.
I did not do global
Yeah.
distribution for Amazon, so I'm just on Lulu right now, but I only have one. I have one project, so I take that back. I do have a project on KDP, but it's like over a year old, and it's just a journal,
Mhm.
so, or it's actually just a
But
notebook.
through Lulu, you can still wind up being on Amazon. That's
Yeah,
a whole nother
so
conversation.
yeah, I did. The book I have is a guided journal, and I wanted it to be able to lay flat, so I did spiral bound, and you can't
There we go.
distribute the spiral bound onto Amazon, so it's just on Lulu right now. But yeah, that is a consideration going forward
Hmm.
for
And
sure.
we already talked about the fact that when it comes to artwork, Midjourney, Playground, Leonardo, Ideogram, that all of them, you can't copyright the artwork that comes from generative AI.
Not at
They
this
won't do it.
time, and that's one of the
No.
things that Peter Nieves. I watched his one of his recent webinars, and that was one of the things he talked about. He was like, we anticipate, within the next several months that there may be some action, But at this
Hmm.
time, you aren't able to copyright AI generated art or text or books.
Yeah. But
So,
if you want to know what's going on legally in the world of artificial intelligence, particularly as pertains to intellectual property, he is definitely the person to follow, and that's where I get the majority of my information, because he's been spot on and absolutely accurate the entire time I've been aware of him.
yep, he's a great resource. And that's a tool that he did make me aware of to kind of circle back on in terms of like data privacy, because that was one of the questions that was generated um when we were talking about when I posted the question to my Facebook. There was a
Hmm.
question from Renee. She wanted to know, when you give the bot info in order to get better results, how do you protect what you give it? There's
Hmm.
no way to correct. And so, Attorney Peter Nieves, one of the things that he mentioned during his information session was a website called private-ai.com.
Hmm.
And that website will redact your, I guess, I don't know if it does PHI. I think it does PHI. I need to investigate it a
Hmm.
little bit more, but I did want to recommend that just off of the strength that it was recommended by Peter Nieves about, investigating private AI. If you have a need to protect your proprietary information and you want to
Hmm.
use ChatGPT or other generative AI tools. So that is a
Exactly.
resource that you can that you would need to vet for yourself, because again, I am not an attorney. That is my disclosure. This is not legal advice. I
No.
am not vouching for this service or for this particular vendor, but I will share it as a resource for you to do your vetting steps for.
And the other thing is that private hyphen AI, there's a little bit of a learning curve also. So that's the high tech way of securing your data, and the low tech way is to, like I said earlier, use a code word,
Use code words. Absolutely.
use code words. But Renee also had some other really good questions. The first one I love. How does it get intelligent? So basically, how did we train the data? She said it was y'all using Alexa and Siri that made it able to mimic human voices. Actually, partially yes, partially no. There is a woman, I can't remember the name of the company, but there's a company that does professional voiceovers. So, when you call, so for instance, you call the electric company, or you call the water company or the gas company, no matter where you are in the country, have you ever noticed that it's the same woman's voice over and over and over again?
Yep.
Yes. These companies basically have employed this woman for years
Really?
to, yeah, to actually create the voice for these particular products. And up until recently, voice cloning was not good enough to replicate her voice over and over and over. So for a long time, she was really reading all of those scripts. She was really reading these words, and then it was just basically artificial intelligence that was putting the right words together at a later time, but she really was reading. So that
Oh,
was
so they
actually
were using
huge.
AI, but not to necessarily clone her voice. But that voice
Yep.
cloning is so slick now. 11
Now,
Labs and
yeah, now they've
Speechify,
cloned her voice. Yeah,
baby,
now they have cloned her voice.
it's getting hard to like be able to tell. And
Hmm.
I love like artificial intelligence tools. I have to stop myself from like going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But you saw
Yes.
yesterday on Canva they have Hey Gen now. That Hey Gen gonna get some people in trouble. Cause not
We
only
taught we taught that in class not too long ago.
and it's in Canva now.
Yeah, I know. It has actually been in Canva for about 2 months.
Oh, really?
But the app that was getting all of the accolades was DID. Hey Jen was there. It's been almost 2 months now that Hey Jen has been inside of Canva.
Cause DID was in Canva. It's in Canva too, and that's the one that I knew about and had kind of used. I didn't know that HeyGen was in there, and I think they gave me access to a HeyGen account, but I haven't played with it yet. But yeah, that voice cloning and that video cloning, baby.
Yep.
Y'all
So
be
did
careful.
you
Don't
see
get
my
got.
video clone?
Don't get
Did you
got.
see my video clone?
I did. I did.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Don't get got, y'all.
Yeah. So for those people who don't quite know exactly what we're talking about, there's a company called Hey Gen, and that's GEN, for the last three letters, and they specialize, and they're not the only ones, but they specialize in what we call the talking head. So you can take a picture of yourself and you can feed it a script, and it'll make your head move, and it'll make your lips move, and make you look like you're actually talking, but you're not. It's your clone. It's your picture, not your clone. It's your picture that's talking and reciting the script. Well, they've taken it a step further, and now you can clone yourself. So one of the classes that I taught the other day, about a week ago, was that um, we now can have full motion, full body motion, full head motion, facial expressions. And the thing is, Hey Gen is not the only company that does it. It's the company that does it at the lowest price, though, because you can get a clone of yourself for $199. Everybody else's is $1,000 and up.
Oh, Hey Jen costs $199.
If you want to do a clone of yourself, they have a clone light, and then they have a professional clone. The clone light, which is the one that you saw, that's the light version,
Really? That one
which
is
is
free.
pretty good.
That one's
Yeah,
free.
no, that was no, that was 199. It wasn't
Oh,
free.
okay. Got you. Okay, yeah. See, I haven't gone down the Hey Jen rabbit hole yet. We have some good questions in the chat. Um,
Yes, we do. Let's see. So if you purchase a PLR journal with AI art covers and ChatGPT written content that the seller says you own the copyrights, is that legal? Oh, Ramsey, that is such a good question.
Hey, Leanna,
I
that is a
love.
good question. So I'll let you
She's such
answer,
a good
Dr. Kim.
question.
I have a thought about this.
That is a gray area. What you do have, you have the right to reproduce that work because the person who generated it using AI has given you the right to reproduce their work that they created
Yes.
with AI.
Yes.
Can you copyright it? They can't even copyright it, so they can't pass the copyright on to you. What you would need to do, and I tell this to everybody, if you're using PLR, please, please, please go in the same way we do with AI. Go in, give it your voice, give it your opinion, give it your personality. Never use PLR straight out of the box. Um, that's what you need to do. Take that work that you have received from this person, take the PLR, put yourself into it, make the changes. My rule of thumb again is 51%. Then you can copyright it. But you can't copyright it if it came straight from ChatGPT.
And again, Leanna, we are not attorneys. This is not legal advice. This is for entertainment and information purposes only. That is my disclaimer.
Yeah.
But
Thank
I
you.
have I have the same response as Dr. Kim. Is that this is not copyrightable material. So I would think that the person you would need to check with the supplier of the PLR, but my interpretation of that would be is that they gave you the rights to reproduce it and resell it. And it would be up to you. Like if you want to tweak it, you would be able to use it as is if that's what their rights gave you. But you would want to check the specific rights that they gave you
Hmm.
because sometimes people will give you PLR to just use it as is. Sometimes they will ask you to edit it, upscale it. They may use various terminology,
Hmm.
but they may ask you to modify it in order to reproduce and resell it as your own. So it would kind of depend on what the vendor distributor has given you rights to, but it's not unless if it's AI generated at this point in time, it's not copyrightable.
No.
I hope
And
that
I'm
answers
looking
your
at.
question.
Yeah. If not, please let. And I'm sorry I called you Ramsey. I was looking at the first names. And please let us know if we need to give that some more context. And before the next question, before we even answer the next question, I want to give you guys another piece of advice because it just jogged my memory. You'll notice that a lot of banking, yeah, a lot of banks are now, when you go call your bank, a lot of banks are asking you if you want to use your voice to authenticate to get into your account. I'm going to tell all of you, do not accept the service. And if you have accepted it, remove it from your account. And the reason is since voice cloning has gotten so good, it takes nothing and it's free for someone to clone your voice and to be able to get into your bank account.
That is a good point,
So,
and I'm gonna go remove that now, especially with me being on social media, because I'm not going to even say where I allowed access for that, but I did. And by virtue of the fact that I'm sitting on here doing this live and put content on
Exactly.
social media, dum dum.
It takes 2 minutes. It literally takes 2 minutes to clone someone's voice.
Right. What was I thinking? Child, thank you.
It's like, look, it was convenient, but hey, Tara says I didn't even think about that.
Me
Yes, but you
either,
said I
Tiara, until she said that. I didn't. This is so helpful. I
well,
didn't think about that. Thank you, Dr. Kim. You
you're
out here
welcome.
doing the
Anything
Lord's
that's
work.
voice activated, anything that's dependent on your voice, don't do it now. Not now. Maybe 10 years ago, not now.
That is very wise, yes. So, this other question, let's see.
I downloaded this app called Pi after seeing some Instagram post about it. Then when it mentioned it would analyze my voice, I rejected it and took it off my phone. Good move.
I think that was smart. And I'm
Very
not
good
even
move.
familiar with Pi, but I think that
Neither
was
am I. I'm
smart
about to look
until
it
you
up.
have the opportunity to look at the terms of service and their privacy policy, and make
Hmm.
sure, like, vet it and, see how other people are using it. That's probably a wise move not um, to have that on your phone and agree to their terms. So, I don't want to put you on the spot, Dr. Kim. I hope this isn't putting you on the spot. But for like Instagram or threads, how do I like unauthorize that? Now if like you've given access to a tool, how do you
Hmm.
like unauthorize that?
My advice is to literally get on the phone with. Yeah, Tiara. Actually, I was just about to mention that case. We'll come back to that in just a second. My suggestion to everyone who actually did sign up for Threads is to get on the phone with Meta and have them work with you to remove it, because you want to make sure that, because and you know this, Meredith, sometimes when you remove an application you don't remove all the parts of the application that are
Mm-mm.
reaching through your phone. You
Right.
want to get on the phone with them and tech support however you need to access it, but you want to get on the phone with them and you want to have them walk you through removing it. And I did hear, and I saw someone post this, I did hear some rumors that if you remove Threads you have to delete your Instagram account. I do not know if that's true, which is why I say get on the phone with them
Okay.
and have them walk you through the removal.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Meta is hard to I they're hard to contact, but I'm gonna try to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Tiara just posted a link, and this was I was about to bring this up in terms of voice cloning. And it says scammers trick mom using AI tech to think daughter was kidnapped and held for ransom at 50K. Sheer panic. So basically,
I've heard about
these
this.
scammers, yeah, these scammers were able to clone this little girl's voice. I say little girl, but clone this girl's voice and scare the bejesus out of her mama because she thought that the child was being held for ransom, had been kidnapped. It's that easy. And when I say that it takes 2 minutes, I'm not exaggerating. It literally takes 2 minutes to clone a voice.
Yeah, I want to see if I can pull this article up. I'm trying to get back to our live because I can't click
Hmm.
on the link from where I am in the chat, but I am curious to see this link. I
Oh,
heard about
gotcha.
this. I feel like, um,
You want me to put it in Messenger?
yeah, if you don't mind, I feel like I
Okay.
heard about this like sooner than July. I see that this was from July of
Yeah.
this year, but I feel like I heard about this maybe like last summer too, where people would call, or maybe sometime last year, where people were calling like elders, like older people, and saying
Hmm.
that they had, like a child, or, they had like a grandchild or something like that, trying to,
Hmm.
extort money from people. So, yes, we have to be ever so careful, and maybe just kind of talk to your family members, and even just make a plan for yourself that if you get some sort of call where somebody's trying to, talk about kidnapping and paying ransom and stuff like that, um, like grab somebody near you's phone. Like make sure you know your people's numbers. Like make sure you know your kids, your grandkids, your
Yeah.
parents, your siblings. Make sure you know their numbers. Like have their number stored somewhere so that you can call them on another device and try to check in with them or text them. If somebody is like trying to say that they have them, held hostage and you need to pay them
Hmm.
X amount of dollars or send them Target gift cards and
Or
Amazon.
I'm stranded in another country and I need $500 to get a plane ticket.
Yeah, you guys be
That's a
careful.
common one. That's a common
Yeah,
one.
that
But
is
yeah, here's a
insane.
low tech way to even deal with that, and it's just in our family we have a code word, and it's a word. It's not a common word, and then we have altered slightly the pronunciation of it, so it makes it even more difficult. And that code word, if someone, if someone is truly in trouble and it's actually that person, only the people in our family know that code word and how to pronounce it. So we know, okay, if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh yeah, your sister this that and the other," or somebody tries to spoof my sister's voice or clone my sister's voice, and I'll just say, "Okay, so what's the code word?"
So if
If
she
they
doesn't
can't,
know it, if they can't produce it,
yep,
that's smart.
low tech, low tech, but it works.
Yep, that's smart. I need to try to implement that with my family and friend circle. I think I keep up too much noise for somebody to try to kidnap me, cause I would act a fool.
We would thank you. All act a fool,
I would
but
act a monkey.
weird things are happening everywhere.
They
But
are.
yeah, that article, that was an eye opener for a lot of people.
Yes, thank you for sharing, Tierra. So I want to be respectful of your time, Dr. Kim, and I try to keep these to an hour. So this was great. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
I appreciate you for
And we
having
had
me. And if
we
you,
had a great dialogue in the chat. So I think that people gleaned a lot. They learned a lot from us this evening. So I hope that this was helpful for you all. Please drop us a heart. Please follow the channel. I'm continuing to do these. I think the last one is the Thursday before Thanksgiving is the last one that I'm going to be doing for this season. But I think I'm going to bring the series back probably after the holidays. And I'll have to have you back, Dr. Kim, as we have new developments if you want to
I
come
would
back.
love to. I would love to. What I love about us is we're in the same. It's the same subject, but we're on different ends of it. And there's for everybody. There's so much. There is so much that's going on. So much that you need to be aware of. Meredith, I am so happy for you. I am so glad that you are doing this series. And I can't wait to see the additional topics you talk about. I have learned an awful lot from you, especially on the graphic side, because I'm more business and strategy and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm like, okay, a graphic every once in a while. So thank you for all the work that you've been doing. Thank you for all of the education that you've been giving people. It's truly, truly appreciated.
You're welcome. And how can people connect with you and follow what you are doing?
I'm pretty easy to find. I am at Ms. Kim's World everywhere. MSKIMSWORLD. Or you can just find Dr. Kimberly N. West, and you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on almost most major social media platforms. I'm easy to find.
Okay. I'm gonna pull it up and drop it in the chat.
Okay, I was going to say, plus, if you look at Meredith's friends list, I think I'm in there somewhere. Is your friend?
Yes.
If your friends list is exposed, that's also another.
Oh,
Oh, Tiara, thank you.
that's a good question. Oh, great, Tiara. Thank you for being here. And I think Jamisha mentioned that you are her cousin, I think. Yes, you're Jamisha's cousin. That's my soror. That's my good soror. Love Jamisha. Um,
Oh,
so yes, thank you for being here, Dr. Kim. I will definitely have you back. Um, and Keith said he's
okay,
gonna
Keith says he's got more
inbox me
information about
some
TNAs.
about terms and agreements. Okay, thank you, Keith. Awesome. I appreciate that. So until next Thursday, you all be amazing. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm looking forward to going to Exodus Summit. That's where me and Dr. Kim met last year.
Yes,
Um,
I will be there this year. I'll be on a
Yeah.
plane.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
I was
you're headed
that's
out
that's right. I wanted to mention that.
to stay on brand.
Yes, to stay on brand. Thank you. Next week there is a gathering of some of the sharpest minds in artificial intelligence in Amsterdam. And it's a conference that happens twice a year. Every year it's called World AI Week. And it's where the world comes together to discuss artificial intelligence as a whole, not just ChatGPT. So, we're going to be discussing healthcare. We're going to be discussing how artificial intelligence can help eradicate famine. We're going to be talking about preventative care because we all know that a lot of the diseases and things that are floating around can actually be prevented, as opposed to treated when we get them. We're talking about urban planning. We're talking about water supply. We are talking about so many different things. We're talking about corporate use of AI. And I am glad, I am happy and honored to be there because one of the things that we need to make sure is that we have a voice. And I said that kind of at the top of the hour. We want to make sure that we're represented in this AI ecosystem. So I'm going to be there for the entire week. I'll be broadcasting live from there, actually. So I've got a couple of broadcasts. So if you just friended me, you'll see a couple of blurbs about where and when I'll be broadcasting.
I need to
But it's
follow your page, turn
yeah,
on the first notifications. I can't remember what it's called, but make
hmm
sure I get the notifications because I want to
it'll be
reshare
in our
that out.
group too.
Okay,
It'll
yeah,
be in our AI group too.
I want to share out your live streams from that.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, it's an exciting time. I am, especially since AI exploded in 2023. I cannot wait to see what the world has to say. Also, governments that are already putting legislation in place for artificial intelligence in Europe, they're going to be there. So I'm going to be able to speak to a couple of prime ministers and a couple of legislators in different countries. So it's really, really going to be an exciting time to see what the world is going to do about this double-edged sword because it can really help us or it can really hurt us.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I'm trying to pay attention to too. And in my day job, I work in healthcare, and there was just a precision medicine conference at work this week, and I tuned in virtually because I want to keep my ear to the ground about what's happening. And they were talking
Mhm.
about various ways that they use artificial intelligence in terms of like decision support tools for a variety of things. So yeah, that's again, that's why I wanted to commit to being consistent to doing these to just expose people to artificial intelligence, make them be aware of the cons, but also the prolific pros. There is so much good that artificial intelligence can do, and we really need to be involved and represented to help with some of the bias that gets introduced when these algorithms and models are being created. We want to make sure that we are fairly represented.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Dr. Kim, enjoy Amsterdam.
Thank you. I will. I promise I won't do anything crazy.
All right, and thank you so much for being here. I am going to conclude the live. Thank you to all the people that stopped by and participated and asked questions. I appreciate you as well. And have a good week. I will see you guys next week.
Absolutely. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Bye.